So it seems that Games Workshop might have just accidentally shown off a bunch of guard rules from the new codex. Let's talk about the clues that the traitors can give us. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking guard rules, and more specifically focusing on a bunch of rules that were shown off for the Traitor Guard datasheets that would be kind of surprised if they didn't make an appearance in the new Guard Codex, and have perhaps given us a few interesting hints for what is to come. As at least a fair few people will be aware, Games Workshop made a datasheet for their Traitor Guardsman squad, their Blooded Kill Team models that they gave some 40k rules for that you can field with Chaos Space Marines. I must admit, I don't think I would have predicted both squats and Traitor Guards to get 40k 9th edition rules before the actual Guard did, but here we are. They basically gave us one datasheet for the Traitor Guardsman squad and one datasheet for a Traitor Commissar and his Ogryns bodyguard, and rather a lot of the changes look very suspiciously like things that might manifest in the new Guard decks. Let's jump in then and talk about 4 of the potential changes and why I think they're fairly likely to happen. First up, for the standard Traitor Guard infantry squad, there's a change to how you can field special weapons within the unit. For literally decades now, the setup with infantry squads has always been that you can take one heavy weapon and one special weapon within the unit, but it does seem at least possible that that could be changing in the new book. There were a few guard rumours around a month or so back that said that heavy weapons would no longer be able to be fielded in infantry squads, but instead you'd be able to get 2 special weapons there. And if the standard guard rules mirror this Traitor Guard one, then it would be changing quite a bit indeed. Basically, the Traitor Guardsman kit is kind of identical to the Deathcore of Krieg one and the Cadian one with the upgrade sprue. In the box you get 5 special weapons, 1 plasma gun, 1 melter gun, 1 flamer, sniper and grenade launcher, so you'd kind of expect the squad to have similar weapons to the standard infantry squad. For the Traitor Guardsman though, the squad costs a flat 60 points, but in terms of special weapon options you can take 3 of them at no extra cost whatsoever, but you can't duplicate any within those selections, so say you can't take 3 melter guns or 3 plasma guns for example. I must admit this kind of setup would fit in quite well with Games Workshop's changes to Wargear throughout 9th edition. Generally their policy has been that if it doesn't come in the box you can't field it in the unit. Perhaps as a most recent example, the Leagues of Votann had a similar setup to this. Their Hearthkin warriors can take 2 special weapons, but they can't take 2 of the same one, as no duplicate parts come in the box. I do feel that with the Traitor Guard getting this loadout, I think it's at least somewhat likely that in the new book we'll see standard guard squads being able to get 2 or 3 special weapons and no heavies. Maybe the heavy weapon squads just being fielded as their 3-man units. Still not 100% confirmed with this one, but given a very similar loadout for a almost identical squad, it does seem at least very plausible. Another big one that looks really quite likely from the Traitor Guard rules in my opinion are that Ogryns might well be getting -1 damage. On the Enforcer datasheet for the Ogryns bodyguard, he's got a rule called Wall of Muscle giving him -1 damage, and just from the name of the rule it does sound like quite a generic rule for Ogryns as opposed to something that's very chaos specific. Currently on the guard datasheets they've got a special rule called Avalanche of Muscle that gives them extra attacks on the charge. It certainly doesn't seem impossible that that extra attack could be baked into their raw profile and instead get replaced by a chunky defensive buff to make the bulky Ogryns even more intimidating to take out. Certainly seems like a nice way to make the Ogryns a little bit stronger if you're not just going to do it on the raw stats alone. Bulgryns have had their ups and downs over the previous edition, but Ogryns in particular really have been struggling. And farming out -1 damage rules to different factions seems to be something that Games Workshop's done quite a bit throughout 9th edition. For example, when the Eldar Codex dropped, all of the Wraith units got it, and with various different codexes other things have had it too, things like the Genestealer Cult Goliath trucks, Tyranid Carnifexes, and basically any Dreadnought equivalents in multiple different codexes too. I'd say having seen this, I'd say it's odds on for the new Guard Codex. Hopefully in any case they'll find a good way to make Ogryns more relevant again. Next up, and maybe more of a minor change, and one that seems quite likely, are sniper rifles throughout the army getting AP -1. On the Traitor Guardsman datasheet, all the special weapons get the standard profiles besides the sniper rifle. That one's listed on the datasheet at strength 4 AP -1 damage 1, and they usually ignore Lookout Sir and mortal wounds on 6s. I do find it hard to imagine that generic cultist gear that looks exactly the same as the guard kit will get better rules, so I think it's odds on for snipers throughout the guard army to get an AP -1 update too. This one would fit in with other similar sniper rifle changes throughout 9th edition. Space Marine Scouts went from the generic sniper rifle profile to getting an AP -1 on it, so did the Eldar Rangers. I had wondered whether or not those two might just be representing improved war gear for the Astartes and the Eldar, but based on even the cultists getting AP-1 on their standard sniper rifles, it does seem it's probably coming for the Guard as well. Admittedly, I think that this will be a pretty small update to the sniper rifle, maybe to try and keep it a little bit on par with the other options for special weapons if all of them are going to remain free. Otherwise, a single strength 4-shot does seem a bit underwhelming compared with something like a grenade launcher or a flamer. An extra pip of AP certainly would help against some targets. Obviously, AP-1 doesn't really matter against things like Astartes and all their armor of contempt these days, but could definitely help out taking out a few more human-sized HQ choices, maybe things like Tau Carter Fireblades or Admech Skitarii Marshals. Again, I'd say that this one's probably odds on to happen in the new codex. Snipers can just be generally useful to have around for hopefully punching through a mortal wound or two if you desperately need to finish something off or get an initial hit on something. Finally, for our short roster of rules, hints and teasers, I believe that we've also seen the new incarnation of Commissar leadership rules as well, already seen on that Traitor Enforcer out of the Chaos datasheets. I don't think many people would debate that the current Commissar leadership rules need a bit of an update to make them fit with 9th edition. Currently, nearby models can use the Commissar's leadership, which is all well and good, but the execution rule is a bit underwhelming. You have to shoot a model and then you get to re-roll the morale test, often meaning that you make very marginal gains as you guarantee losing a model anyway, and then despite that you still might fail morale and have you lose even more models regardless. I feel like we're probably going to get an Imperial version of the Traitor Enforcers rule forward for the Dark Gods. If I had to make a risky bet, then I'd say that there's at least a decent chance that the Imperial rule could be forwards for the Emperor as a good guy's mirror to that, though I guess they would have to rename one of the orders. In any case, the Traitor Enforcers rule is that once per turn when a unit fails morale within 6 inches, you don't have to test combat attrition, so basically you take the single morale casualty and then you don't take any more. I feel like this one works quite well thematically as well. The single morale casualty could basically represent the one model getting summarily executed, as Commissars like to do, and it actually gives you a degree of reliability with having the model nearby. Morale buffs in 9th edition do have to be quite good to bother bringing along, otherwise you're just not going to bother, seeing as there's a reasonable chance that the squad just gets killed with guns anyway, and morale doesn't matter in the first place. The Enforcers datasheet doesn't have any sort of leadership buff aura, so it remains to be seen whether or not that's still going to be a thing on the Commissar's datasheet, but hopefully they do manage to find a way to make these rather iconic models actually useful again for the Guard. Ever since their rules got changed in early 8th edition, they have generally been a little bit more pointless to bring along compared with just bringing bigger squads and more guys to begin with. So anyway, there we have it, 4 potential interesting Guard rules changes from the Traitors datasheets. My guess would be that at least most of these will probably appear in the Imperial Guard Codex, though it will be interesting to see if there's any subtle changes. I feel like some of you down in the comments are probably going to mention the Vox Caster rules as well. All that does is allows the Traitor Enforcers rule to go a bit further. I do feel that for Imperial Guard the Vox Casters are much more likely to do something with orders and have a bit more utility. I guess we'll have to wait and see though. Let me know your thoughts and your hopes or fears for the Guard Codex. I'm certainly looking forward to covering any more rules or models previews on the channel, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more Guard news. Finally, if you've been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics also has a Patreon page as well, and you can find that down in the video description. The Patreon is what allows me to keep on making YouTube videos like this quite so regularly, so if you are enjoying a lot, any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.